In episode 15, the story begins with the Thunder Kittens trying out their spaceboards for the very first time. Now you can tell that Wiley Kid, she really handles it really well. But as for her brother, not so much. So Wiley Cat went first to plead his case, and I guess he wasn't kidding when he said Panther really came up with something. And of course, Wiley Cat happens to agree with her brother. And she says, well, this is great. Now we can really move around everywhere. She's not kidding. So long story short, meanwhile at Cat's Lair, Panthro had just finished installing a voice communications device inside of Chitara's baton. So after he was finished, he said all you had to do is just talk into it, and that's all. Really? That's it? Chitara says, no switches or anything? Panthro says no. So anytime you want to keep in contact with us, that would be just the thing to do it, he said. So meanwhile on Mount Anguish, Lionel was sitting there by himself carving Thundera on the ground with his sword, until the spirit of Jaga appeared and he could tell that there was something off with him. So Lionel wanted to know, what's it like on Thundera? What's going on there? Now Jaga seems to know what is wrong with Lionel. He's homesick. Now remember, Thundera had exploded just 14 episodes ago. And now Lionel is pleading his case with Jaga, his mentor spirit, to say, I just wish that I'd know more about it. Though Jaga seems to agree with Lionel to say that when he was 12 years old, he left Thundera, and he grew up to be a man on Third Earth. So ever since Thundera exploded just 14 episodes ago, he's missed a lot of it, which means he missed about growing up a lot. So when Lionel was begging Jaga to tell him more about Thundera, so Jaga says, I can tell you a lot better than that. So as Jaga explains, that's when, luckily for him and the Thundercats, they didn't leave empty-handed when they left Thundera 14 episodes ago. So flashback, we go back to 14 episodes ago before Thundera exploded. According to Jaga, he said that when he was alive and along with the 7 other Thundercats when they left to Third Earth, they took the time capsule with them. According to Jaga, the time capsule is very special. It holds a record of all things on Thundera, their history, and everything else before Thundera exploded. So after the Thundercats left, the planet exploded. So the last thing Jaga's spirit said to Lionel in the present scene was to go find the time capsule, and if he does, he could learn more about Thundera and Lionel's childhood that he missed. So anyway, back to the present! Later that night in Castler's control room, when Lionel told Tigra about it, that's when Tigra says that there's some good news and bad news. That, yes, it is true. The good news is that they did have a time capsule, and that they brought it with them by the time that the Planet Thundera exploded just 14 episodes ago. Plus, even better news, Tiger confessed that he thought that the time capsule was destroyed the moment that the ship crashed, but luckily it didn't. So now here comes the bad news. Where's the time capsule? What happened to it? Lino asked. Well, there's only one thing left to do. Panthro suggested that they can cover more ground if they split up. So now it's up to the Thundercats to find the time capsule. Now, Tiger, who agrees with Panther, said that once we get to where we are, we can communicate with ourselves in that new device that Panther had installed earlier in our weapons, he said. So the Thunderkins wanted to go too, so they asked if they could tag along if they can use their space force. But Snarf spoke in his case to say, no way, you kids are too young to be out like that. Someone has to stay and watch the lair, he suggested. So after Why the Kid had pleaded a case to say it isn't fair that she and her brother can take care of themselves, Panthro seems to agree with Snarf. Snarf's right, Panthro says. Someone has to stay here. At least you'd be safe, Panthro said. So long story short, after the Thunder Kids complained about being safe is boring, that's when the adult Thundercats head off. And that's when Panthro heads off in his Thunder Tank while the rest split up. So long story short, back with the Thunder Kittens, Why the Cat was asking his sister, are you sure this is a good idea? Now remember, they were told to stay behind, but they wanted to go along anyway. So Why the Cat wanted to know from her brother, you're not scared, are you? Of course not, her brother said. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go. And so the Thunderkittens head off. So back with Lionel and Snarf, they made it through Unicorn Forest, and they're on their way to the River Despair. But according to Lionel, he told Snarf that they can stop on the way. Well, good news for Lionel and Snarf, they made it to the River Despair. So Lionel asked Snarf a question. You can swim, right? Yes, Snarf said. But I think we should have stepped together. We could use the thunder tank, he suggested. But when Lion was about to go into the water, by the time that he did, he saw something he's never seen before, a black widow shark. Now, good news for Lionel, he made it to shore. And he has never seen a creature like it before, so he was asking what it was. Well, the unicorn keeper was more than happy to answer that. She says that is the black widow shark. She'll attack anybody that comes close to the river, she said. The unicorn keeper also explains that the black widow shark will weigh anyone that tries to cross the river of despair. Of course, Lionel and Snarf had learned that the hard way. So meanwhile, back with Tiger, he's in the mines of the Moomin. And so when he spotted one of the Moomin, he was asking if he's seen a time capsule anywhere, but they chose not to answer him. Then suddenly the ground began to shake, and luckily for Tiger, he made himself invisible. And then the Mole Master appears. The long story short, by the time that Tiger appears again, he goes one on one with the Mole Master. So the Mole Master went to plead his case with Tiger to say you shouldn't have trespassed in these mines, that for that you should pay. So both Tiger and Mole Master are having a battle, and it went on and on and on and on and on. Long story short, what Tiger did next is that he uses his polar whip to set the Mole Master's whip on fire, and then it disintegrated. Then finally, what Tiger did next was unbelievable. Using the bowler whip to set the ground on fire, it really scares the Mole Master. Finally, the Mole Master ran off. So after the Mole Master ran off, one of the Mole Men showed up, and Tiger had asked one of them again to help him find the time capsule, but unfortunately he refused and then heads off. Well, Tiger had to learn that lesson the hard way. Never do a favor for a favor. So meanwhile, back at Unicorn Forest, here comes the unicorn with a diamond in its mouth. Now you're probably wondering what it was for. Well, the unicorn keeper was more than happy to explain to Lionel and Snarf that it was for the Bridge of Light, and according to her, she says that they will see it in a minute. So that's what happened. So once the unicorn has the gem in place, then lo and behold, the Bridge of Light appears. Now you can tell it's very interesting. Snarf complimented at how beautiful it looks, he's not kidding. And of course, both Lionel and he were in awe. So the unicorn keeper tells them to hurry up and get across the river of despair, and so that's what they did. But just before Lionel and Snark can make it across, there's the Black Widow shark again. It started to attack Lionel and Snark even from inside the bridge. So luckily, back with the Unicorn Keeper, she found a place to hide. Back with Lionel and Snarf, when he knows that the bridge is going to break at any time, so he said to Snarf, "Go, get out of here!" So Snarf runs off, while Lionel stays behind to try to take care of the Black Widow shark with his sword, of course. But it turns out that using his sword's power was a big mistake, and so the Bridge of Light begins to crack. Back with the Black Widow shark, it tries to attack the bridge. Well, Lionel knows what to do. He runs away the best way he knew how while the bridge was falling apart. Well, luckily, good news for Lionel, he manages to get away. But the bad news is that the Bridge of Light, the middle of it anyway, was gone thanks to the Black Widow shark. Well, good news for Lionel, he made it across the bridge before it fell apart, and he joined up with Snarf, who made it across first. So he said in his case that he's never going to go through that again. That's for sure. So back with Tiger, who just moments ago left the mines of the moment, he just contacted Chitara. He asked her if she had any luck. Well, meanwhile in the swamp, that's when Chitara told him no. And so Tiger suggested to call Panther and to find out what he found. So after that, the transmission ended. But then out of nowhere, that's when Chitara spotted a swamp creature that comes out of the water. Well, luckily for Chitara, she dodges every attack that the creature makes. So she thought, okay, maybe speed ought to do it. And so she did what she knew best. So long story short, Chitara takes care of the swamp creatures. So meanwhile, back with Panthro, he had just arrived at the beach of the Crabmen. Then Panthro received a transmission from Tigra to ask him if he found anything, but Panthro says that he hasn't had any luck. So later, back with the Thunderkins who had just left the Castellars moments ago, they had arrived at the River of Despair, just like what Lionel and Snarf did. But what the Thunderkins didn't know is that suddenly they saw the exact same creature as Lionel and Snarf did, the Black Widow shark. So once it came out of nowhere, luckily for Whitey Kid, she jumped out of the way. Too bad it ate her spaceport, but luckily for her brother, he managed just to rescue her when he did. Well, long story short, the Thunderkins had managed to escape, and so they left the River of Despair. So meanwhile, back with Lionel and Snarf, what Snarf wanted to know from Lionel, why didn't Jaga just tell him where the time capsule was instead of going through all the trouble? Well, Lionel said to Snarf that Jaga has his own reasons, but then something just grabbed Snarf, but Lionel was unaware of it. So when Lionel was asking Snarf what Thundera was like and to tell him about it and etc., he didn't still seem to notice that a rock creature just grabbed Snarf. So when Lionel was asking Snarf, talk louder, I can't hear you. But he still doesn't even notice until when Lionel looked behind him. That's when he realizes that a rock creature that just moments ago grabbed Snarf. When Lionel saw what had happened, he pulled out his sword of omens and started battling with the rock creature. So back with the rock creature that just came to life thanks to Lionel's sword, he's still holding on to Snarf. Until when Lionel commands him to let him loose. That's what the creature did. And then the creature went back to normal rocks again. Meanwhile, back with Panthro, who's still on the beach of the Crabman, he goes one-on-one with the Crabman himself, with his nunchucks, of course. So Panthro and the Crabman had battled on and on and on and on and on. That was until Panther runs to the Thunder Tank, and then he climbs into it to drive away. The Crabman runs to catch up with him and then got to the roof of the tank. That was until, thanks to Panther, it got the Crabman off the tank, and so he left the beach. So back with Lionel and Snarf, that's when Lionel says, hey, did you see something in that cave over there? Well, Snarf not only said that he did, so there's only one way to find out for sure if there's a time capsule inside of the cave. So what did Lionel do? He did what any good guy would do. Look through the store's eye. And when he did, that's when he realizes that he had found a time capsule. So that's good news. So we know what this means. It's time to call in the cavalry. So Lionel does what he was supposed to do, just like what any good guy would. Project a Thundercat signal from his sword. So that's what he did. Meanwhile, the Thunderkins were first to see the signal, and so they head off. Next up is Chitara. And the last two were Panthro, who's in the Thunder Tank, and Tigra, although Panthro has to pick up Tigra on the way, so they both head off in the Thunder Tank. Now, back with Snarf and Lionel, who just saw the time capsule earlier in the cave, they approached outside and then they just went inside of the cave. They had never seen a cave like that before until that very minute. So after they went inside, that's when Lionel and Snarf realizes that there's a caveman inside. So back with the caveman, he approaches the case with the time capsule inside. Now, Snarf had a thought that maybe the caveman isn't so friendly. So instead of talking to the caveman, what Lionel did is that he approached the caveman and uses his hand language to tell him that the time capsule belongs to him and the Thundercats, and they had to take it. But the caveman wouldn't allow it unless, according to what the caveman, when he used his hand language to Lionel, he challenges him to an arm wrestling contest, and if Lionel wins, then he can hide the time capsule. So Lionel agrees. But before that can get underway, that's when Snarf pleaded his case with Lionel to say there's no way he could win that contest because the caveman is so big. Snarf's not kidding. Well, Lionel says, I guess there's only one way to find out. And so both the caveman and Lionel agree to arm wrestle each other. And so the contest begins. And so, as the contest went on and on and on and on and on and on, Snarf was just watching, but then he has his eyes covered with his hands. He just couldn't believe what Lionel was doing. So, back with the Thundercats, by the time they arrived, that's when Snarf lets him know that they are here. But Lionel pleads his case to say he's the one who accepted that challenge and it's his own battle and not theirs. Back with Panther, he just played his case with Tiger when Tiger tried to rush in to help. He says, "No, don't do it. It's 1-on-1," he says. Of course, Panther isn't kidding, so the contest continues to go on and on and on and on and on until finally Lionel won. And of course, Snurf and the others cheered to see that Lionel had won the battle. And of course, even better, he earned the time capsule. So after Lionel won the arm wrestling contest and earned the time capsule, he pleaded his case with Tiger and says it doesn't look like much. "No, that's true," Tiger says, "but wait till you see what's inside of the outer crystal inside of the time capsule itself," he said. So Lionel asked the question if he should look at it right away because he just couldn't wait to see what's inside. But Tiger refused and says there may be some damage. But Tiger says that there's a better suggestion. They could take it to the cat's lair so that Lionel could look at it from there. So finally, Lionel agrees with Tiger and says, "Since I waited so long to find out about Thundera, and I wanted to find out what it looks like, maybe I can wait another day," he suggested. And so the Thundercats agreed. So back with the Thundercats, although it's confirmed that Panther pulled up the Thunder Tank to grab the time capsule so they could go back, that's when the kittens show up. So Tiger is asking them, "What are you two doing here?" Then Chitara has her turn to tell the Thunderkins, "We thought we told you to stay behind," she said. Then Panther has his turn to tell the Thunderkins, "And I thought I told you never to have two people on one board at once," he said. Then the Thunderkins explained why they had to be on one board to begin with because they were having some problems on the way up, and the one spaceport that they had was eaten by the Black Widow shark. The kittens also explained that the reason why they had to come along in the first place because they're afraid of missing out all the action. So Panther asked the kittens a question. "Do you have any idea how long it took me to build these things?" So Wily Kid apologized. And the reason why she's apologizing is because she and her brother knew better and they just didn't think things through. Then Chitara has her turn to plead her case to the kittens to say, "Luckily you two didn't run to any trouble while you're here." "Indeed we did. Lucky for us," the kitten said. Then Tiger says, "Wait a minute. Did I sense a lie around here?" "Why would we lie about that?" the kittens asked. Then finally the kittens admitted that yes, it was quite a breeze. Well, almost. But at least they didn't get wiped out all the way. "Well, I'm glad you have admitted it," Lionel said. "And I'll tell you what I'll do," Panther says. "I'll rebuild a new spaceport for you," Panther suggested. And of course, even better, but the worst of it all, is that now the kittens had to be punished for this disobedience. So now the kittens know better that the next time that the adults tell them to do something, they'll do it. So that ends episode 15.